Hello you guys, and welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Jake.
And today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of coaching. We both have had coaching experience. I coached middle school track for 3 years.
And I coached cross country just a few months ago.
And continuing on.
Yes.
So we wanted to share kind of our input because we did do a video about the pros and cons of teaching that I will link up in the cards up there in the corner and at the end of the video. But basically with coaching, I think it, for many teachers, is an important decision to make regarding, is it something that's worthwhile for you to do? I know sometimes you don't really get to make the choice is made for you as part of the job. Hey, you're coaching this.
It's a nice little bonus, a little add-on.
But we're gonna talk a little bit about it if you find yourself in the decision of trying to decide if coaching is the right thing for you. Because definitely I'd say overall we've both had very positive experiences, but there are definitely some benefits and drawbacks. Do you want to start us off with some of the pros?
Sure. So the most obvious pro to all of this is that you get to know students and staff better. Huh? See, I went different than what you were probably thinking. That's right. So we keep it unpredictable here. But no, working with students and getting to see them in an environment outside of the classroom, probably an environment that they're more comfortable with, because usually, I mean, your classes, especially middle school, they don't choose to be in your class. They're just kind of forced to be there. So obviously you can still have good relationships and good times with them there, but in all likelihood, they're probably choosing to be in cross country. They're probably choosing to be in basketball. They're probably choosing to be in track. So you're going to see them in an element that they're most likely comfortable with and good at, versus possibly in class in an environment or in a subject that is not particularly their strength. You also get to know staff members better that also are involved in coaching your sport. If you are lucky enough to coach with somebody else like both of us were, you get to not only kind of jump into a system and not have to make up everything by yourself, which is a bonus there, but you get to know this person better through a lot of hours that you will spend with them to and from bus rides to different meets or different games, or during practice, before or after it.
I think it can also be positive, especially, it depends on the sport, but you are likely going to be more active, as well as maybe even spend more time outside when you're coaching. So I know for myself with track, because I was coaching every day, I would be significantly more active. I would be the kind of coach who would run across the track as students were completing workouts. So I got a workout in myself, and also just spending the extra time outside. Whereas if I wasn't coaching, I probably would have sat more at my desk after school and graded things or worked on materials, or I would have gone home a little bit earlier and been inside. So it was a great way, especially for me, even on some days where it's not as fun weather outside, I'm still more involved outside. Now obviously that depends on the sport you're doing, but that was a pro for me.
Now, potential con, well, I really enjoy being outside myself and get to work on my tan, so that's important. I did find that I had allergies when I was coaching cross country this year, and literally the week after it ended, they were gone, because I would be sneezing like a crazy person before I left for work and then after I came home. So I thought it was like this because we moved to a new place, and I thought, well, maybe that's because of this place, but it wasn't. It hasn't acted up for the last month. So potential con, you might find out you have allergies, but it's still worth it.
Or if people had already spent more time outside, they'd already know if they had allergies.
Well, you know what? We're assuming here that at Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies that you just sit inside and watch your videos all day, so.
That's true.
Just kidding, obviously. Yeah, another awesome thing about coaching is that you get to be a part of something bigger than yourself, which sounds corny, but it's true. If you have a really awesome season and a winning season and you get a trophy for the school, you're a part of that. While we didn't completely go all the way this year, we did make it to state. It's cool to be a part of, a winning season where all the work that you and obviously the students have put in to make it happen, to kind of look back on it years from now and look in that trophy case and see what you did. So
But I will say it's not even all about the winning. I think it can also be just as valuable to watch personal growth, especially in track. It's very, well, I mean, and cross country as well. It's very much organized based on like personal growth and students trying to improve. So even if they're one of the slower students on the team and they're never gonna theoretically earn points for the team, if they have a major improvement, like that is so exciting. And so I love that element of it too. Yes, it is really exciting, like from a track perspective, whenever we were seeing kids qualify for state. I talked already about me running across the field, but I remember like we had one team that qualified for state in a relay and it was gonna be close and it was like they just barely made it. And just the excitement that there was from everyone with that team, and that moment was so much fun, like running across to tell them, like, because I had my stopwatch.
I love seeing that. It was great.
So all of that, just it's a really cool feeling to be a part of. So when things are going well, like that's a phenomenal feeling. So another big positive is that this particular sport might be an interest or hobby of your own. Now, I was never that athletic, and like I am terrible at most sports, but I really enjoyed running and I loved being involved in track in the second part of my middle school career and during high school. And so being able to come back as a coach for that for several years was really exciting, to sort of get to relive, I don't want to say my glory days, but man, I wasn't ever that good, but to be a part of it again and to just be involved in it again. Because, and I'm sure many teachers or others can relate, like when you're in that season, like it matters a whole lot to you. And then it's kind of a weird thing, like when you're out of that, like let's say, so in college, then if you're not involved in the sports, it kind of feels a little weird. And so it's cool to be back in it. So that was something I definitely enjoyed.
Or you can learn a new sport that you never did before when you were a kid. Different challenges involved with that, but also really fun. You get an appreciation for something that you didn't have or have prior knowledge about.
There is also the pay bump that comes with coaching.
Oh, I'm not money-minded though, so just completely dismiss that. But yes, obviously, the more work that you put in, at least hopefully, you get paid for it. So that is very nice. Enjoy that extra moolah.
You just called it moolah?
Enjoy those extra dollar bills. Enjoy that cold hard cash.
I don't know if it's
I'm done.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into the negatives here, because someone has to be negative Nelson in this case, and since I'm a guy, that's gonna have to be me. So, almost obvious negative that's involved with this is truly just the time that's lost. Yes, a positive is all the time that you gain with the students and staff, but a negative is the time that then has to be taken away from your time, your me time, or your family time. I mean, you're gonna be spending a lot of extra hours at the school or at other people's schools for these meets. It's gonna take a lot of extra time in terms of preparation for different meets, different games, whatever the case might be. And so it does have some adverse effects potentially. So just being able to recognize before, if you have the choice to commit or not to this sport, hey, is this something that I can realistically fit into my schedule? How is this going to impact my life outside of school? Because it almost certainly is. Like you're probably going to be spending many evenings and many weekends at these different games or these different meets, including your vacation time too. A lot of sports, like basketball is one I can think of, for example, the holidays, they usually tend to have those holiday tournaments.
Well, and even thinking back with your cross-country schedule, Jake's summer essentially ended several weeks early because he had morning practices where he was not able to sleep in anymore for a good month before school. And that's even something like going forward, planning ahead for next year. I know that you basically don't have summer in August. I mean, you do because there's not school, but if you have to wake up early and go to school and do that like 40-minute commute to and from, that's not really summer anymore. But I think with the time, you do maybe look at, wow, I'll get paid $2,000 for coaching this season, which is great. Like that sounds like a lot. But if you do the math and break down the hourly amount, I know for myself with track, I got about $2,000 for the season, and it was about a 2-month season. for that, when I broke it down and did the math of the number of days we had track-related things, it broke down to about $50 a day. Now, that wasn't really dealing with taxes much. I don't think I factored that in. But with that, like that up front sounds great. I can stay an hour extra after school for $50. When you break it down and you have several weeks where there are 2 to 3 meets per week, and you're not getting home till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, some meets even 10 o'clock, you're putting in a lot of hours and not getting paid very much for those days. So I do think it ultimately balances out. So when you factor in the hours, not even just the actual time spent at the meet, but extra prep. I'm not sure, I can't speak for all sports because I genuinely don't know that much about a lot of sports, but from a track perspective, putting together all of those track lineups where I decide, okay, who's gonna be running in the 4x1, the 4x2, who's throwing the shot put, the disc, like, it was such a puzzle I kind of felt like I was putting together. And well, overall, I did enjoy that. On the nights I had to submit who was doing what before a meet, it might take me several hours to submit that. So it was definitely something that took a lot of extra time.
I remember that. That was a lot of time on that computer. Another disadvantage potentially of being a coach as a teacher is that it takes away from your teaching. I know for me that when I coach, I'm not as good of a teacher because I don't spend as much time thinking about and reflecting about how I can make my lessons better, or maybe presenting the most challenging content where I'm gonna have to then do more challenging grading. I know for me, I was lucky because a good chunk of my season is before school starts and when school is starting, so everything is kind of, you know, you just get used to procedures. And I mean, teaching 6th grade, I mean, one of the kids' biggest problems at the first couple weeks is just opening their lockers and getting to their classes on time. So you really don't have to do too much yet with the content. But especially as we got into late September, early October, that started to become a little stressful when you're getting into postseason time and sectionals and state, if you're lucky to make it that far, and then trying to keep up planning your lessons, teaching 6 classes a day, and then going into coaching for another hour, hour and a half in my case, sometimes longer depending on the sport that you're doing. It does get to be a bit exhausting at times. So just trying to figure out, again, that balance and being okay with my teaching is not going to be at 100% when I'm coaching. It can't be.
Yeah, I hate to view it kind of like as you're in survival mode, but honestly, sometimes it feels that way. And there'd even be times where, you know, we have our planning time, whatever time that is allotted for us to help grading and calling parents and planning stuff for copying stuff for the next day, whatever it is. And there were times where literally my entire planning time for even multiple days sometimes was track. And so when you've got all of that time, plus sometimes even if the kids are working on an activity, there'd be times if we had a meet that we were hosting and I had a lot of work to do for that, you know, there were even unfortunately times where someone else was supposed to do something to get set up, whether it was related to the athletic director or the other schools, and stuff didn't happen the way it was supposed to, and then last minute we had entries that I had to put in lanes for the thing. It was just like, I'm literally supposed to be teaching right now and they expect me to get this set up at the last minute, like while I'm supposed to be teaching. It's just like, you know, those are frustrations.
Right. So just trying to head off those issues as best as you can, finding out shortcuts that you can use to, you know, get things ready, or really, I hate to say it, but lowering your expectations of yourself in some of those cases. Like, you know, it's going to be fine. The kids will be fine coming back tomorrow, even if the room is not just so, and just rolling with it because, you know, you got to keep your own mental health in check. I know.
You are a bit of a perfectionist too.
I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Another frustration that I don't think really experienced much, but I could see other sports definitely experience more, and I've heard of other sports experiencing this, has to do with some potential conflict with parents based on the decisions of the athletics. So I only had to deal with a couple frustrated parent situations with the coaching track, but I can imagine, especially if you have to decide who's playing in the game, who's on the bench, who is more involved, like the different roles that students have, I could see some parents getting very frustrated with either how the coach is handling things or making those decisions. And especially since I mean, again, I'm like not someone who's that into sports. So someone who really knows sports and loves the sport and maybe played the sport themselves has a lot of ideas about what they'd like to see, but they're not the coach, you are the coach. There were some situations where I previously worked where some coaches like were very disliked. There was a lot of negativity. Parents were very frustrated towards the coach, and that would be a lot to experience and have to deal with, I think. Like I said, I was very lucky. I only had to deal with a few minor things from irritated parents, but it just opens up a whole nother layer for you to be getting criticized.
It's nice doing you track and then cross country because everybody gets to like race or everybody gets to be a part of something. But for like your other sports, basketball, volleyball, or football, baseball, for like the high school level, softball, people all aren't going to make it. There's not enough spots, and then not everybody can play at all times. There's only so many spots. It's just like professional sports. Like if you probably have criticized the coach of a professional sports team that you really love because you're so passionate about it. Now imagine though, not only is this person a fan, but their kid is involved, and their kid means everything to them. They want the best for them, which sometimes means parents not always acting in the most professional or logical ways. So just
it can be intense.
Keeping your head up, knowing that you're seeing the whole picture because you're taking into account everybody's feelings and you're taking into account everybody. The parent, they just want what's best for their kid. They don't have to see the whole picture like you do. So of course they're going to be coming in with a very different perspective, but just trying to make the most of that. Just being clear about what you're doing, keeping records if you can. I know that's what we did in cross country. We kept like a data sheet of like everybody's. So the last thing you gotta think about is just that, again, you have less time because you're coaching. There's less time to prepare meals, less time to do chores, less time to keep your house in order. So it may get a little messier while you're coaching. That's why you hopefully have somebody else, or you have children at home that can pick up the slack for you during these trying times.
Well, I think with this one, we are more so thinking about needs of that particular sport. So if you have to bring changes of clothes, if you have to bring additional meals because you're going to be having a lawn meet and the only food is like garbage food sold at concession stands, like whatever it is, those are things to think about too because they do take extra time.
True.
So hopefully this was helpful to you if you are in a situation deciding whether or not coaching is the right fit. I think going forward, I really appreciated my 3 years coaching track, but I think long-term for me, coaching is not something that I feel passionate enough about like continuing, and I do prefer spending more time focusing on my actual teaching as well as some of the like online teaching related business and that kind of thing that I'm doing instead. How about you?
I mean, I'm still in the midst of doing it and I enjoy it. I'm excited about next year being a year going in. I know a little bit more about what I'm doing and knowing the kids and knowing the sport, knowing the school. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
So thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new to this channel and want to subscribe, you can click right here. Okay.
Just wanted to be included.
And then if you'd like to watch a previous video, you can do that right here. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.